Jean, I do. Unless Emma Frost joins the X-Men after I've recently been separated from the Apocalypse and I have some sort of weird telepathic affair with her where she's counseling me and she's dressed up as the Dark Phoenix. Other than that, I love you. Hello and welcome to a Smurd P video, and today we are looking at the X-Men Omnibus, The Wedding of Cyclops and Phoenix, and it is very beautifully presented in this omnibus. So there's the classic cover, and I really dig how this is set up. Very nice, and the side as well. Absolutely beautiful how that is. They've really given this cover some thought. And then there we go. Jean and Scott tie the knot. Little synthesis there. And there's all the attendees. And here are all the issues collected in this volume, or this omnibus. I gotta say, when I first knew this was going to come out, I wasn't actually that interested because I had the paperback, so I thought, hey, you know, I'm not going to get it. And then I looked a bit closer at what was in it. I thought, hey, that's actually pretty cool. And then I brought it, obviously. So all in all, if I've counted this correctly, there are 24 issues in this omnibus. One thing that I just wanted to point out, on the side, it doesn't actually say omnibus, it just says Marvel there. I always like the omnibus, but hey ho, they haven't given us that title, even though it says Omnibus when you go to purchase it. Okay, once again, very beautiful. They've really given this special moment some thought. I'm not sure you're going to see it very well, but this kind of looks like a beigey color, and this is obviously black and white. And then once again, that part, and then under here, it just says the wedding of Cyclops and Phoenix. So, you know, you can skip the dust cover if you really want. I'm going to keep it in there, obviously. And then just a nice little X-Men down there, which is pretty darn cool. Okay, and within here we have the moment that she asked Scott to marry her. And then you have details of them and what's going on now, or just before. And then a little invitation there. And then on this side you get to see about the creators. Very cool. I do dig when they give us a bit of info on writers and artists. And then there's a nice picture of Scott and Jean previously on X-Men, and we get a little bit here about what's been going on and what kind of leads to this book, which is pretty cool. And then if you look this side, then you get all the writers, artists, etc. this side. Very nice. Okay, so the first thing you get from this story is the Blood Ties crossover with the Avengers. Pretty much this is after Fatal Attractions, if I remember correctly. And pretty much, I think Quicksilver's daughter is actually kidnapped by Fabian Cortez. And so the Avengers, X-Men team up to rescue her. Now me, I'm a big fan of the 90s X-Men. In terms of the art, I really did enjoy this art back then. Big fan, and I love this story, and it's probably one of the reasons why I grabbed this, because I had the comic, the little graphic novel that came out probably about, what, 20 years ago or whatever. But just having it in this omnibus was pretty nice. See, look at the detail there. Very quality, some great quality art. Okay, very nice picture of Exodus there. Very cool. West Coast Avengers. Okay, so here is some art from the Cable storylines. So once again, really dig this kind of stuff. Fantastic stories. As always, I just wanted to show the binding. As always, it looks pretty solid, as pretty much all Marvel books do. And a big crucial story that happened in the 90s was Wolverine basically ending up staying at the mansion. Professor X trying to get through to him. And I think Boom Boom, if I remember rightly, makes a big mistake. There's some big fights with Psylocke and Jean Grey, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on the Jean Grey one, but I'm pretty sure there is a fight. Okay, so if I remember correctly, it's Thanksgiving, and Jean is kind of doing some soul searching, if you know, looking at the pages and kind of remembering, and she comes to this conclusion, which is pretty darn about time. I think this was what, like 94, 95, after everything they'd gone through. Jean being believed dead, Madeline Pryor, etc., etc. You know, bad time it happened. Oh, there we go. There's the little kind of fight. I'm hoping that there's something bigger happens. Okay, now this was always one of my favourite stories, where Professor X is... Anyway, he's talking to Eric Lenchip. If I remember correctly, it's not him, because he basically comatosed him back on Asteroid M during Fatal Attractions. So he's kind of having this story with himself about how he does things that he shouldn't perhaps do. And no tragic story other than him and Amelia back then. Also, another great issue in this book is Cyclops and Cable, aka Nathan Christopher Dayspring Summers, his son, who was sent to the future, came back now, and you know, they really thrash out some of their personal issues, their demons, etc., as they take on the executioner. Sorry, trouble saying that word, man. So some of the special moments at the wedding is these two. They're like sisters. I think that's her mum, if I remember correctly. I could be completely wrong and talking bullcrap. Being walked down by her dad. Very, very beautiful. Some fantastic drawings. You know, that's a special moment that you would expect a father and daughter to have. And then a very, very nice ceremony. And then the wedding traditions carry on with the throwing off the bouquet. Not familiar with this one, but hey ho, each their own. A special dance with Charles Xavier, who had been like a father to Scott and obviously Jean, even though there was that weird thing in Onslaught where he confesses to loving her. A bit bloody strange, if I'm being honest, at that point. But hey, the shocks kept coming. And finally, a special moment between a father and son. Very special moment. Okay, and then you get a What If X-Men wedding album. Pretty cool. Some nice art in here, if I'm being honest. Dark Phoenix. We get one of my favourite stories, the Adventures of Cyclops and Jean Grey, where basically they are thrust in the future by Rachel Grey, if I remember correctly, to raise none other than their son, well, his son, that was sent to the future. And, you know, it's really nice that they did this, that they gave this some thought, and these two actually get to raise Cable in the future. Okay, they may not raise him to adulthood, but they do what they would as parents. And it obviously comes to an abrupt end when the mission is kind of over. And then that span off the series called Ascian Sun. Damn it, I cannot say it. And it's actually not a bad series. I read it a little while back. I did enjoy it. And the given doesn't stop there. We get some more X-Men action with some more tales. Got some Spiral in there. So you got X-Men 32. So this is all stuff that lead up to Phalanx Covenant. And then in terms of extras, you pretty much get some stuff that look like they were promos, etc. at the back of the comics back then. It's a very nice shot of Magneto. So very, very darn cool. So 30 years for the Avengers. And then you get some nice covers here. Ooh, my favorite. So I have a collection of trading cards, which I haven't shown on here. And this was the 95 series that came out. I'm not sure about that one. That seems to be odd. And these are just other ones. So these must have been the masterpieces that came out back then. Sorry, it says it at the bottom. Note to self, look at the bottom. And then this is just talking about the trade paperback that came out back then. I love this cover, one of my favorite covers. And oh, that's it without the words. The end. Okay, so in terms of comparison, so this is next to the Uncanny X-Men Fatal Attractions and the Phalanx Covenant. So I'm going to look at the back of this one, and then you see how they kind of, hopefully, if I'm correct, mold into each other. Okay, so this finishes with Uncanny 305 or 315. So there's the gap. Then you've got X Factor, which doesn't come into play in the book, and then you finish with X-Men 25. So actually there's not much there in terms of X-Men, whereas there is more in the wedding. So in terms of Uncanny X-Men, this goes from 307, so 306 is missing, and that takes you up to 310, which is pretty cool. And then X-Men carries straight off after 25 to 26 to 35. So pretty much that's probably the main detail I guess you need to think about when buying this. Right, and then the funny thing is, you got 306 there from Uncanny X-Men, and then 311, which takes after the wedding. So there's a bit of interplay between this one and just before this one, which is, it's not weird, it's just probably a bit bizarre. And then this picks up with X-Men 36 to 37. So you can almost say that the three of these are pretty much that continuous story. So it begins with this, jumps into this, then goes to this, and then finishes with this. So, and then you've got a big chunk of a 90s year, I would say. Very, very Even cool. My Marvel Legends wanted to get on the action. Okay, so here are my 90s omnibuses. So you've got the Volume 2 of X-Men started coming into the 90s. Then you've also got the big story, mid-year Fatal Attractions. Big event, wedding of Cyclops and Phoenix. Looks very nice on my shelf now. Phalanx Covenant. Oh, damn it. The Age of Apocalypse. X-Men Avengers stroke Onslaught. And then Operation Zero Tolerance. And then we jump into the 2000s. So very, very nice. A big chunk there. And I think if you're looking for books, there is a lot of books capturing big chunks of the X-Men's history now. So we're starting to see some really nice books come out. Okay, so just to wrap this up, this is a very, very beautiful book, and it has some really, for me, some important stories from the 90s, and it comes with some great artwork. They've really given this book a kind of elegant feel to it, you know, just how that's presented, how the side's presented. When you take the dust cover off, very well presented. So for me, I'm really glad that I got this. And I think it's going to fit nicely in my collection for a very long time. So thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Facebook. My page is SmurredP. And embrace the geekiness. Goodbye.